Ready.
Welcome to episode 34 of the Go Get 'em Agility podcast. My name is Margaret Hughes. I'm your host, along with my daughter, Emma Hughes. Hi, Emma.
Hi, everybody.
All right. So today we are talking about reactivity in agility. All right. And why are we talking about this?
Oh dear, shall I be the one to break the news?
Uh,
Poor Eli. Well, actually, I shouldn't be the one to break the news because I don't really know the full story. But to my knowledge, Eli was caught on camera red-handedly going after a dog through a fence during a practice session. But see, I'm not
well,
currently in
let
the
me.
United States right now, so I don't have the full scope of what's going on.
Okay. So he alerted on a dogs and went at them. I don't know how. So he went through a practice gate. So a practice gate is one of those freestanding
Yeah.
gates that you see at like obedience trials and stuff like that. And I'm not even sure if he saw the gate, but he definitely saw the dog or the person with the dog. And he went lunging, barking very loudly at the dog, got caught up in the practice gate. The practice gate, he ended up upside down underneath the practice gate because he got caught into it. Um, and then that was it. He never made it to the dog. The dog never reacted to him in a negative way, which is thank goodness. Um, and I couldn't get him back on just a simple Eli, 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 and he ignored me completely. So it was in a workshop. It was in a new location. He was the first dog on the line, and he was very, very stimulated, very aroused by the environment.
I
His
have a
teeth were,
question.
yeah.
What kind of dog was it? Was it like a young male dog or was it
Well,
like,
no,
dot,
it
say?
was a 2-year-old Doberman,
Oh,
intact,
okay. Not
intact.
saying that it's the Doberman's fault. I'm just saying that there's generally a type of dog that like young male dogs like Eli will kind of
Yeah, I don't think
check.
that was it at all.
No, you just think it
Yeah,
was a dog
I don't
thing?
think he even had any idea that it was an intact male. That
No?
No, he just because he was so far away from it. Um, I think so. He for a long time now, since since I've got him essentially, he's always had a moment of sudden environmental contrast reactivity.
And
So
it's not just with dogs, it's with everybody. It's with me, it's with dad, and it's like at first I thought it was just because he didn't like me. Because obviously I had come into Eli's life when he was what, around 13 weeks old, 14, 15 weeks
I think it
old.
was 4 months.
Yeah. And so he was kind of, established within the household, and I just figured that this rushing the
Yeah,
gate
but
and
it didn't
barking.
even start with you.
No,
So
but I'm saying that I attributed it to me being new and I attribute it to other people being new. But I
no.
think it's
Well,
just an
new,
environmental
yes.
change because he still does it with me to this day and he loves me. I know he does.
Right. So it's
So
not
it's,
the person, it's the novel
yeah,
episode. It's the all of a sudden you weren't there and then all of a sudden you are there. It's
exactly.
that response. And so yeah, it can be a known person, it can be an unknown person. If he knows that the person is there or the dog is there, then he adjusts fine. He'll still sometimes bark depending on more at people. But that's he has a little bit of reactivity towards people who are stopping and staring at us and I'm talking to them. So he has been known to alert on that. But
Yeah.
he's always been really easy to pull off. He's always been really easy to redirect. And it's not limited to just people and dogs. He's also done this on a tarped up trailer. So there's a tarp big and that is really random because for the most part he's really good about that as well. New like just things, but he's alerted. So and this was months ago. He hasn't done this in a long time. So he alerted on a tarped up trailer, just off on a field. He alerted to a huge propane tank. So he could not figure out this propane tank. He alerted to a garbage can once at a
Really?
fairgrounds. Yeah, at the fairgrounds, he was like, "What is up with this garbage can?"
Poor boy.
Um, what else has he alerted? So he's randomly done it, but it's not consistent. Not everything
No,
freaks him out. Not every person freaks him out. Not every dog freaks him out.
no. Not
So
every
it's,
instance freaks him out, right? Like
yeah,
sometimes I can, like when I come down the stairs in the morning, he does it sometimes and then he's fine other days. It's literally random. It's so
it's very
strange.
random. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which also makes it very difficult to predict.
Yeah.
And the only true way that I know that it's bothering him is that he explodes, right?
Right.
With an alert bark, or it's an alert bark. He comes to his high alert sense and says that right
And
there.
it is an issue because it when he barks, it engages other people. So if you're walking down the street, right, and he barks at you, you're going to turn your head, you're going to look at him, right? And so then the problem kind of
It
snowballs because
does. It
all of a sudden he's been reinforced that the weird person walking down the street, they just looked at me.
that
And so
that
it's
and then I also
horrible.
react with
Yeah, right. You
Eli.
panic. Well, not that you panic, but you get a little nervous.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
start working him a little bit stronger, right?
Yeah.
Bringing him back. So, what else? So, okay, so I was trying to figure out his triggers, and I did write them down. I
Oh,
wrote
look at
down some
you.
of.
She loves lists.
No, I don't love
You
this.
love lists. You do.
Oh,
You
I
have,
love lists. No,
yeah.
I just want to try. I wanted to try and quantify what is the triggers, and then with that, how can I predict the triggers and how can I help him? So, a couple of things definitely stand out. One of them, and I didn't connect this until I actually started writing this list, and it ended up at the top of my list, like, oh, wow, this is a trigger for sure. And that is that he charges the fence. So there have been random times when I've been out in the agility field, and unbeknownst to me, or accidentally, uh, my other dogs have been either allowed out into the backyard, which connects to my agility field, or I didn't realize that they weren't locked in the house. And so I've been out in the agility field. They've alerted that I'm out there, and they let their presence know that they want to come out to the agility field. And at that moment, Eli has turned and rushed them at the fence. So I've seen that a couple of times. Didn't think much of it because they know each other. And I know that the dogs that are on the opposite side of the fence just want to come into the agility field. But that definitely, I think now looking back at hindsight being 2020, that was definitely something that I should have tipped my hat to and said, oh, I don't like this. Instead, I didn't pay much attention to it. I just got him back, got the other dogs out of the backyard, and continued on my merry way. So, fence charging is definitely at home with known dogs. It, that's definitely one of the triggers. Um, New students arriving at where I work. So I have an arena that I work at that um, has a gate. And so again, fence charging, right? And if somebody comes to that gate and he's loose in the agility arena, he has been known, if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not uh, actively working him, he has alerted on them at the fence and charged the fence. Uh, then the other trigger is if I have them on leash or off leash, either way, on leash or off leash, and people are walking the course and they stop and talk to me, that will alert him. Or if everybody stops walking the course and turns and listens to me talk, he has been known to alert on some of the students, not all of them. It's very random on who he's picking. And I can't totally tell you what type of student he alerts more to. I would say older. Um, and glasses, hats and glasses,
Yeah,
maybe,
but that's
but
that's
not
like
totally across the board.
that's circumstantial though, right? Because generally I would not to paint a broad brush, but the people who can afford to do agility classes generally are people that aren't young like me,
No, I know,
right?
but I'm
Like
just
you're not going to see like some punk 15-year-old, right?
yeah, but it
Um,
do oh, well, no, but there's another one of his triggers is he has gone up to kids and he's fine with them, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm not fine with you anymore. And
oh,
he's
that's weird then. Yeah.
yeah,
Not
so
weird, but you know what I mean.
yeah, so he's started barking a couple of times at one of my junior handlers. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um
I mean, I think just the fact that he barks at
that's it.
me and dad is, reason of its enough of itself. Um,
Yeah, I
because
think the bigger alerting is definitely when it's sudden environmental contrast.
right.
But that
Like
is
if
not
I drive home and I get out of the car, he's like, "Oh my God,
yeah,
what are you
but
doing?"
that is not across the board the sole issue for sure.
No.
All right, so what have I been doing to so the incident that happened with the Doberman really put me back on my heels because he did not return to me with his name. He ended up getting all tangled up in the fence, which scared him, I know. Um, and it, I really had to reevaluate what and how I was approaching this. So I I've been working on a couple of different things with him. So the first one that I've been doing is more settling when I'm talking to people, doing and just more settle work in general when we're at the agility arena. So just having him, so a settled equals laying down on with your hip. So laying down on your back hip, kind of rolled over onto your side, sort of. So not in a sphinx position, right? Ready to pounce, ready to get up, but more in a settled position, lay down, chill out. We're not doing anything right now. Um, and at the same time as that, if I am around stimulus, if he if he just acknowledges it, so and acknowledging it with the what's called the LAT, look at that, which can be an ear flick, it can be fully looking at something, it can be just gesturing that he's looking at something. So just rewarding him for acknowledging that there's something in our presence, and staying settled regardless. So I've been rewarding him for that. I've also taught him the verbal look around, which is my way of telling him that there is something new and novel coming into the area. Take a look around at it and tell me that you've acknowledged it, essentially. Um, I've been doing, well, I've continued with the get it game, what I call the get it game, or also called the back and forth game. And that is that when stimulus is coming into our area to do a get it of chasing cheese or chasing something visible, getting something coming back to me, getting something coming back to me. I've done the up and down game, which is essentially putting cheese on my shoe. So alternating between my cheese on my shoe. That's more of a, so it's a power, what's it called? A power pattern that I think is the brainchild of Leslie McDivitt, but that Tracy Skellner has taken and expanded into the sport world. So doing that as well. And then the last thing that I've been doing a ton of, which I've gotten some of it on video, but not much. A lot of this I have not been videoing because I want to pay attention to him and not thinking about him being me and being videoed through this. But and that is just when he's loose, when he's just wandering the arena with me, that I will randomly just talk to people and nobody's actually there. But me just saying,
They're gonna kick you out of the arena. They're like, Margaret's gone crazy.
yeah, if you can hear me in the other buildings, I probably sound pretty strange. But we're just wandering
What do you
around.
talk about?
I just say hello. So I do exactly what I normally do when a student arrives. So I'm just randomly I said, hi, how you doing? Come on in when
That's
you're ready.
great.
And so just getting him used to me not looking at him, me looking out in the general area that my students arrive at, and talking. So I find that, when it's just him and I always talk to him. Right. When I'm training him, I talk to him. When he's passing me, I'm like, oh, you're just so goofy. So I'm always talking to him. And when I don't look at him and I look out into the parking lot and say hello, he alerts. There's somebody out there. And so I took to just talking randomly when nobody's there, and just de-escalating me talking and looking out in the parking lot. And then also when people are there, making a note of talking to them and rewarding him for not reacting. So I think that is 99% of the stuff that I've been doing.
This is good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this became the Eli podcast when I said yes to this. I was like, oh,
Yes, you did.
so nice not to see his goofy little face. And that's not true. Eli and I love each other.
He is below me.
Oh.
So those are the
Sorry.
things, those are the things that I've been doing. Has it been helpful? Yes, so far it has been. He has still had little episodes, but definitely not as nothing like the Doberman. Absolutely. And that was by far the worst episode we've had with the Doberman, and it has not repeated itself with the Doberman. Has he been perfect? No. Has he been better? Absolutely. Have I been better about trying to acknowledge novel situations that I believe may worry him? Yes. Have I been perfect? No. So it's a process. He's coming up on 11 months old.
Oh my gosh, he's old.
Yeah, so he's still very, very
Baby
young.
boy.
He's still very young, though, and his brain is still very young.
Yeah,
Right?
dogs don't mature till they're like 6.
There's not mental capacity to actually make stellar decisions across the board at this age. He's still very much reactive, right on his emotions. And so keeping that in mind, and that this is a process, not every day has to be perfect, is a good thing. I've been putting him in more novel situations at parks, not dog parks, but just at our normal parks, which also generally have dogs, or the occasional dog. I've been just in general taking him to new locations with novel stimulus, but not so overwhelming that he loses it. So he's done very, very well at all the novel situations that I've put him in.
He's a good boy.
And
I think that our long drawn out story here of Eli's reactivity and all of our examples of it is not an uncommon tale. It's
I've had a lot of people talk to me about their own personal.
Yeah. But it's not even,
dogs.
Before Eli, we were aware of it. I think that you can't go into the agility sphere and not be aware of it, because I can guarantee everybody at some point has either had a dog that's reactive, or they've met a dog that's reactive, or they've heard of a dog that's reactive.
On some scale, for sure.
Yeah. I think Eli's, I think Eli's quite a good example of a reactive dog, right? He's not too off the scales, but he's also not, he's right in the middle of reactivity, I think, but I'm also not a dog trainer.
So my questions that I continue to pose to myself is, if I was to go to a fun run today, how worried am I that I would lose him? And I'm not that worried anymore. I was more worried before Zany camp. I was definitely worried that he was going to track motion, but again, that's more motion-based chase rather than reactivity. So, he likes to chase other dogs in play. That is definitely one of his, he loves that. And when given the choice, he is chasing, not being chased. So that still is absolutely a possibility that just he gets into like a sight hound mode, right? Like just herding. I want to chase that mode. I'm not worried about him aggressing on another dog for the sake of the other dog just wanting to aggress on him. He's never gotten into a fight. My concern still remains that if he does approach another dog abruptly, lunging, barking, how does that other dog react? Because while I don't think he goes in with the intention of fighting, he definitely goes in with the intention of, I need us to not talk to each other, essentially, right? Like he doesn't go in friendly. And so then I'm concerned about how the other dog is reading him and reacting to his idiotic behavior.
Yeah,
Right.
and he's not that we want to encourage fighting ever at any point, but he's also not a big dog. And so if he does get into it, he might not win.
Absolutely, he's
He's
not going to
he's
win. Yeah,
yeah,
unless he's up against a small Shih Tzu or something like that.
unless he's against
Um,
Dot.
yeah, and he's never Jinx, our border collie has told him off a few times, and he's never come back on Jinx ever, which I am actually surprised because Jinx can be fairly insistent on fighting, and when Eli has backed off every single time Jinx has said, "Yeah, let's go," and Eli said, "No, no, I don't want to go anywhere," and then Jinx backs off as well, but yeah, I was much more worried about Jinx's behavior in agility than I am Eli's.
I agree. And
Yeah.
I can say this is somebody who we ran Jinx together for what, 7 years?
Yeah.
6, 7 years. So yeah, this is something
Yeah.
that
No, Jinx definitely had intention to fight.
yeah,
He definitely would flatten a dog in 30 seconds and
yeah,
remain there. He was a type of dog that had to be pulled off another dog. He had gotten into a dog fight by the age of 8 months, I think.
yeah,
He got into it at a sheep herding trial. He got into it with a dog. Um, he's flattened Millie, without
yeah,
provocation. He flattened Millie for her looking at a piece of toast.
yeah,
Um, and Tia, he
yeah.
got into it with my other dog. That's
He
yeah.
never bit them though. He never drew blood. A lot of it was
Well, that's
just
the only reason
his
he
weight
stayed.
and his noise, right?
He
And
had
so
a
I'm
great
not
mouth.
saying that we're advocating for for dogs that this is reactivity in maybe its mildest form compared to like, some of the dogs you might see like on the news or something. None of our dogs ever actually bit anything or anybody
Right.
and drew blood.
No, and that absolutely. So when I was doing aggression, that was absolutely one of my draw lines was what damage is done in a fight. And you're right, Jinx, from the first fight to the very last fight that he ever had, uh, hopefully he'll
And
never have
we're acting
any
like he's
fights.
died. Jinx
I
is
know he's
alive
not
and
dead yet.
well,
Eli,
but he's
Jinx is still
but
very much alive, but from every single fight that he's ever had, and I want to say he's had upwards of 8 fights,
yeah,
maybe
like
five fights
I
total.
would say 5. I don't, yeah. Also, I'm
Okay,
very young,
so
but
5 out of 10 years, 5 fights out of 10
mhm,
years, 4 of those being with our dogs,
yeah. And I would
right?
say 4 of those being within a span of 3 years.
Correct.
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
wasn't like he's gotten once Dottie came home. That was like when we kind of noticed him, like, oh, he's a good boy. Like he's not
Correct.
as agitated as he used to be.
Correct. So right around 3 years of age, 2.5, he simmered down for sure. So yeah, it was those first 2 years that were driving me crazy. But in all of those fights that he did do in those first 2 years, every single one of them was blood free, was injury free, zero stitches, zero bite marks. He was a very soft mouth fighter. And so that was his saving grace because any stitches, that is a whole different ball game as far as allowing dogs to continue interacting the way that with agility and all of that. I mean, if he was a known damage fighter, I would have had a much harder time walking into an agility ring with him than if he had actually sent dogs to the hospital. So
You could probably also, it is dangerous because AKC can ban you as well if you continue to bring a dog that you know is dangerous and you can't control.
mhm.
And I'm not saying that if you do have a dog like this that you shouldn't go to trials. If you know that you can control them, then by all means. Um, but you will kind of get a reputation if you let accidents happen. Um,
Yeah, you have to be a really diligent owner with a known dangerous dog. Yeah, and dangerous is sending another dog to the hospital.
yeah,
Yeah, or
yeah.
another or a human for that matter.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was
Right?
also with Jinx is like he never did anything to anybody to a person.
Yeah. So, but those early days, unfortunately, sometimes you don't know until you get into that arena what exactly your dog's going to do, right? And so it's very, very difficult for a handler to wonder, right? And so that's where training comes in. That's where working at um with a trainer can help you establish, well, how likely am I to send my dog to a trial and have them hop the fence, right? Hop these 4 foot
Yeah.
gates and go attack another dog, because
Yeah.
that is definitely not okay, right?
Right.
Like actively seeking out another dog to take them down
Yeah.
is scary.
Yeah.
And that was
Especially if you're not a dog trainer, right? I would say I'd wager to say about goodness, 90% of people who do agility are not behavioralists, right?
no
And
right.
so, and that's okay, obviously. But if you're not educated on how to combat this, right? If you just stick a pinch collar on them and call it a day, um, what are we doing here, guys? It's like, well, that's not going to help anybody.
Right. No, there's
Not saying
managing.
I don't want to get into the pinch collar debate, but I'm just
No.
saying that if you're uneducated on it, um,
Yeah, and
Google's good.
there's managing the dog's behavior, and then there's training the behavior.
Yes.
So there are a couple of other things that I failed to talk about that I am actively doing with Eli. One of them is I went back to his name response, right? Getting him to turn on his name better. Going back into Eli come, and why I didn't say Eli come on that episode with the Doberman is because I didn't think he'd go through the practice gate. I thought he'd get to the practice gate and he'd come back to me. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I personally wonder if he actually even saw the gate. That it leads me to believe that he never saw the gate. He went right through it, got caught up in it, and was shocked that there was something holding him back. But I have upped my training on his name again. I've upped my training on Eli Come. But also another thing that I've been doing is that when he comes out of the crate, I've taught him the word right here. And so every single time he comes out of the car, he is to turn around and come back to the car and put his paws up and get a weight or a reward. I'm rewarding him heavily for this. And then I give him permission to get his paws off the car again. So that way, if when I'm getting him out, he's not lunging right towards another dog, right? He's not coming out of the crate and going, "What's out here?" So his job is to come out of the crate and come back towards the crate for just a moment. Like, dude, just get out of the crate and put your feet back on the car. I've also been doing that out of doorways, going into the arena, coming out of the arena. So any transition spot through a doorway essentially means we go through the doorway together, and then you turn around and check back in with me. We come out of the car, you turn around, check back in with me. We go out of the house, you turn around and check back in with me. So that I've also added into his repertoire to help prevent him going through a transition spot and into something that's going to have him react to.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's also very important to point out that if your dog has these same issues, our or your cute little Eli solution might not work. Because as I yell about every other week, is every dog is different. And I think that myself and you, mothers, obviously, are in a very interesting position because I don't know how many people actually know this, but you have a background in animal behavior. Yet was your job for a very long time was not agility, but training aggressive and reactive dogs in a
which
positive way.
which I did not enjoy. I did not enjoy that line of work at all. That's why
No,
I
but
left
my
it.
point is that you are very well versed in it, and it literally you got a degree in it. And so I think that there's so much unsaid research that goes on in this that it might be a little bit hard as a maybe somebody who just picked up a puppy and they don't really know what they're doing. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not a dog trainer. And so it's hard to diagnose those problems and move forward, which is why people should go to trainers, even if they,
And so
even
why
if
did it
like
so
you.
so why did it go sideways on me? Where did I
Well,
go wrong
I
in
don't think you went
raising?
wrong. I don't think Eli went wrong. You want to know? This is when you called me at like 2 in the morning your time. You're like, Emma, look at this. I remember saying to you, I said, Mom, you have a dog that is crossed with three of the most uh driven personalities in agility. You've got a Papillon, a Border Collie, and an Australian Shepherd. And he's a wonderful dog. I love Eli. I hope that you obviously continue your journey with Eli, but
Yes,
it's like getting a German Shepherd and then saying, well, why is my dog insane? It's like getting a Malinois, right? Why is my dog insane? And I think that it's just something we have to work through. I don't think it's anything wrong with him or you. I just think that's just how it is.
yeah, I do think that there's one place, and this happened. I noticed this right around 5 months of age. So he's always had big feelings about new sudden environmental stuff. I mean, that has been a given from the get go. So from the very 8 weeks old, even just Kristen said, yeah, he has big feelings about people. He has big feelings about dogs. He just hasn't seen enough of them, right? So I knew that, and he very much did, and I continue to train him. But one thing that I noticed right around 5 months of age is it dawned on me as I was training him that I had kept him in too much handler focus, that I never really let him look around at the world. And I do equate a lot of this to that. I equate me keeping him in focus, and that's what I wanted a ton of handler focus. When something starts to go down, look to me for direction. And he did, and he did, and he did. And then when I
He's a very good
finally,
boy.
yeah, and then when I finally figured out he doesn't even know that there's something 20 feet away from him. When I realized that we were beyond the puppy's socialization stage,
Right.
right? So now everything's going to take a little bit longer. And I had never taught him to just look around,
Yeah, and
just
I don't
take
think it's
in.
either your guys' fault though, because I think that
And yeah, maybe it would or
you
would
want to
not have changed
you want me
things.
to this is what I think. Do you want to know what I think?
Yeah,
I think that you wanted him to be perfect, and I think he is perfect.
I
But
did.
I think that he had like Millie-esque shoes to fill, right? I mean, you got this tiny little mixed breed puppy, and you said, "Okay, buddy, we want you to be the best dog the Hughes family's ever seen."
I just
And
love
he was
training him.
like, he
I
was like,
loved,
"What?"
yeah, I loved
But
training him, and I did, and I did, and I did, and I did, and I never let him
I don't
just
think it's anybody's
chill.
fault. I don't think it's Christian's
No,
fault. I don't think it's your fault. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's just how it is. It's just how the world is.
right, nature, nurture. It's both,
Right.
right? He was born with high drive genes, and
Yeah.
then I trained some stuff good and maybe some stuff slightly not ideal, but
Yeah.
that's okay. That's what it is.
Well,
And I continue. And maybe that happened for a reason because I needed to see all this and work through it myself so I could help others.
and it's also you've put him into a sport where he's once he's in that ring, he's never going to see another dog, right? I mean, it's not like, showmanship or confirmation where he has to look down a line of dogs and be okay with it. Like, that once he's in that ring, that's all you do, right? Is he has to focus on you. And so it's
Right.
a
Which is, yeah, it's
really
like, I don't want him to go
severe
say hi to the
switch.
judge. I don't want him to go
Right.
say hi to ring crew. So yeah,
Exactly. And so it's hard to balance that.
and look, and maybe that was part of it. Maybe it wasn't. I'll never really know. But we are going to go see his breeder. We're going
Yeah.
this Saturday. We're going to go do a little road trip. She's coming up halfway. We're going down halfway.
Are you going to go see the
And,
eclipse?
oh
There's
yeah,
an eclipse
your
apparently.
dad.
You should go see it.
If the clouds are
Get a
parted,
picture of him like underneath the eclipse, like a halo.
it's only a partial eclipse.
Oh, that's
Uh,
boring.
anyway, so we're gonna go chill. We're gonna go hang out together. She gets to meet him and see what he's doing. We'll see if he reacts to her.
Oh my gosh, I hope he
So
doesn't.
bad.
He really is such a lovely dog once you get to know him.
No, I'll
It's
tell him to look
like,
around.
oh
Look around.
goodness.
There's your grandma.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, overall, 99.9%, this dog is exactly the dog I want. Exactly.
Exactly.
And I know that the behaviors that we've got going on are partly his age,
You'll work
partly
through
his
it.
partly his breed, partly my training, and I absolutely will continue to work through it and build him into the best agility dog
Yeah.
that I can, and house dog, and just overall
Yeah.
companion, chilling out, watching dogs go by, watching people go by, and
I
not.
remember you always said to me, you said, and I always hated this. You said, Emma, you've got the dog you have. And
That's
I was
right.
like, what does that mean? What does
Train
this
the
even
dog in
mean?
front of you.
True.
Train the dog in
And I
front of
and
you.
I remember crying because I took Dottie at the age of maybe 6 months to a training thing, and she was a shadow chaser. She chased shadows, and I remember being like, "Oh my God,
Oh,
my
that's
dog's
right. She
gonna,
did.
she's gonna leave me for these shadows." She never did. She
No,
never did. And so
yeah,
I'm not
she
saying
did
that
that for what,
Eli,
about 2 months?
yeah, it was awful. And I'm not saying that Eli's reactivity is baseless, but I'm also saying that he's young. And the young dogs are really weird and they're kind of freaky and nobody really understands them. And he'll grow up.
Yeah.
He will.
Yeah. I know that this is not our end behavior. I know it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep plugging away, training what I want, telling him, warning him when I think that something's going to scare him, and
Yeah.
keep telling him to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that. Anyway, a
Yes.
big shout out to Tracy. I can never pronounce her last
Oh
name.
my goodness.
Uh, Skelnar, and her puppy power, or whatever they're called, power games, power patterns.
Oh boy.
I've enjoyed I've enjoyed learning more about them, Super Bowls and all that. And I think that it is working with Eli. So yeah,
Good.
I like it.
Good.
All right. Well, thanks, Sam, for joining me. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. This is
Yeah.
good.
Happy
Can't wait to
training.
see the little man.
Hey,
Very exciting.
yeah. Okay. I love you.
Bye bye.
Woof woof.
Woof woof.
Ready.